Cole, did you have another New Year's resolution?
So my next New Year's resolution is one in which I want to give Forrest a shout out. Forrest is the best person I know who can straight up rebuke someone to their face and just leave it at that. No hard feelings. Maybe your feelings are a little hurt, because nobody wants their toes stepped on. But Forrest can do it, man. If you're gossiping around Forrest, he's going to let you know that you are a sinner and you need to stop. And then he's going to continue talking about football to you. And this is biblical. And this is something that I want to do better with. I want to read to you 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 21, where Paul says, "What do you wish? Shall I come to you with a rod or with love and a spirit of gentleness?" So shall I come to you with a rod, meaning severe discipline, maybe a severe tone, or a spirit of gentleness in how we correct one another in Christian love? And both are useful. Both have their place. Paul would then go on to talk about how one man is sleeping with his father's wife, and the church was allowing that. So obviously that would be at the time for a rod. And then there's time for a spirit of gentleness. And so for me, my New Year's resolution, my spiritual New Year's resolution, one of them is to hold the people around me accountable. It's like I'm so scared to do that. I'm so scared to do what God wants me to do, which is correct people. And there's two extremes of this. There's the side that says no, all grace, don't offend anybody, and we know that's not right. And then there's the side which is like the gospel police, you could say, where it's like every time I talk to you, you're rebuking me. Stop. You know what I mean? So to find that balance and to be able to correct my brethren so that they can live a better godly life.
I think that's a great resolution as well. I've been teaching about accountability in our middle school class on Sunday mornings here at Walter Hill, and I definitely think that's something that the church has kind of gotten away from a little bit. I think it's definitely something we all as individual Christians need to do a better job of, for sure. I think, Forrest, you had something you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'm really surprised that you think that about me, Cole. I just feel like I don't know when I've ever done that. I don't know. I just don't feel like that. But I also, I'm definitely far from perfect. I've rebuked people sometimes in ways I probably shouldn't have, or said things I shouldn't have. So it's definitely, you just got to be careful and ask for wisdom and stuff. But part of that is like, I really want you guys to rebuke me when I need it. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of the way I don't know. That's just a mindset I've always kind of had. And because have you ever done something wrong for so long and nobody ever called you out on it? And then finally, when you became aware of the fact that you were doing this thing wrongly, you were just so utterly embarrassed that like you never wanted to do it again. That's happened to me several times. And that feeling is way worse than like being called out the first time you do something wrong. That way you can know, oh, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? And I think like everybody, like I have been rebuked for things I shouldn't have been rebuked for, just like kind of silly stuff. And I feel like a lot of that too is our culture. Like our culture is kind of getting away from that idea of like it's simultaneously. At one time, our culture like cancels people and like silences people for stuff that's really not even that serious, while at the same time saying, hey, don't actually give me any kind of moral instruction about how I should live my life. You know what I mean? But I'm definitely not the master or the expert at all. But that's something that's not even to have that be a resolution is pretty interesting.
It's just and rebuke has a bad connotation to it. But when I say Forrest is so good at rebuking, I'm not saying he's so good at being rude to people. I feel like that's the conclusion we come to. No, it's not that at all. It's just Forrest, at least I feel like, knows that he has a responsibility to hold other people accountable. It's an act of love. It's absolutely an act of love. And like he just said, he wants other people to do that to him so that he doesn't live in error. So he also, even though it's hard, is willing to correct others who may be doing something inaccurately. And just as Forrest said, when I was talking about the gospel police and people taking it too far, when people are always coming at you and telling you what you're doing wrong, and it's the most petty thing, like silly things, like maybe it's you say too much in your sermons. That's when it's like, really, man, really.
Yeah, I am also good at being rude to people. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, I would say. And Chris knows what I'm talking about. There's one famous example that I'm not going to say, but where I like low-key rebuked somebody and it totally backfired and I shouldn't have said what I said. And if he doesn't remember, we can talk about it later. But yeah, try not to be rude. I think that's one of my New Year's resolutions too, more practical than spiritual. But
I think that's great though, on both accounts. I think I might know the story you're talking about, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think I do. But yeah, no, I think too, like it's important how we respond to being rebuked, you know? Because like I agree with Forrest, like I want to be rebuked when I need to be rebuked. But yet I also know that that's really easy for me to say right here and now than it is for when like I'm actually rebuked, you know? So I think that's something we all need to strive for as well, is just to be like accepting and ready to accept rebuke when necessary.
and I would say real quick that there is a difference between criticism and rebuke. You know what I mean? Like sometimes people are overly critical and they feel like they're doing you a favor, but they're really not. They're just trying to, and sometimes that has to do with taste or opinion. Like it's my opinion that a preacher should do X, Y, and Z, and then they'll bring that to your attention, and then you're like, okay, fantastic. I think that cream cheese is delicious since we're sharing opinions. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of just irrelevant, and they're almost just trying to force how they think you should be onto you. And that's different than like, wait a second, this guy, this person that I love may be doing something that is endangering himself or other people or whatever it may be. But I would say that but learning to take criticism is important too, just because there's no way to escape it. No matter where you are, no matter what your profession is, no matter what, you're going to be criticized. Maybe even by your spouse. So something to keep in mind.
I don't remember if I mentioned this in the last episode, but 2019 was a time in which I had to learn to take criticism. And the first thing to taking criticism is admitting that you are not perfect. So anybody listening out there, I feel like our culture especially needs to hear this, because I feel like nobody can take criticism. And anytime you criticize somebody else in hopes of benefiting them, I feel that it's 9 times out of 10 not going to go well. Like at first, obviously there's going to be conflict. And then once the conflict settles, then it came to fruit. But realizing you're not perfect and just leave it at that.
Realizing you're not perfect, but then also realizing that it's not the end of the world that whatever they said about you. You know what I mean? Like understanding yeah, okay, I'm not perfect and I need to grow, and that's okay. It's okay that I'm not perfect. It's okay that I need to grow. I think that's something I have to remind myself of sometimes, is that growth is okay and that it's needed. And just because someone identifies an area where I need to grow in does not mean it's the end of the world. So, and I think sometimes too, we can be afraid that people are trying to criticize us when they're not actually trying to criticize us sometimes. I think sometimes we can get too caught up in what people say and begin to think that we're being criticized when in reality, like, they're just talking, or they're just, hanging out with us. Like, it's not actually a big deal. But I thought it was interesting a minute ago whenever Forrest said he enjoyed, or that he wanted us to rebuke him, because it was just a few hours ago that we did rebuke this boy, because he said that he would move to New Zealand if the Titans beat the Ravens after the Titans smacked down on Tom Brady and the Patriots.